All right, James.
All right. Let's do it.
All right, so we're on the highway now. We just left our office in Palo Alto. We're on 280. And I'm going to put the vehicle into what we currently call highway assist by double pulling on the stalk here. And it's now in a hands-free mode. And my eyes are still on the road. I'm still paying attention. It doesn't mean I can't look away for conversation or for short periods of time, but it allows me to not have to have my hands be the confirmation that I'm in the driver's seat or that I'm alert and aware.
Yeah.
And this is, importantly, just the start of what we're going to start to see in terms of this growing feature set, expanding ODD or operating domains on which the vehicle can do this, going from highways to surface roads to turn by turn. But James, do you want to talk about what's happening behind the scenes? What's the vehicle doing now as I'm looking out?
Yeah, so I mean, this is this new feature, the new hands-free feature. So we've been under development for quite a while, right? So you can imagine there's many components that go into it. One is really robust detection of driver state, understanding where you're looking, really improving all our lane keep and distance following so that's really smooth and comfortable. Better handling of cut-ins so that we're not getting into situations people feel is too close. And so we're really proud of this first version. I think the team has a very Kaizen philosophy, so we're always improving things, we're always measuring things, and I think that's a lot of that power comes from that data loop where we're always getting that feedback from the fleet. We can feed into the next version of the model, improvements in the engineering and so on.
And so when we talk about the model, there's a in-vehicle inference platform that's doing the real-time decisioning. It's what's controlling the vehicle. But offline of the vehicle, when we find unique events that are occurring as we drive across our fleet, that we send those out up into the cloud, and we're able to capture those events and use that to train our much larger parameter offline model. So do you want to talk a little about what that structure looks like and how we then take that model and distill it back down to what's in the vehicle?
A big part of the technical approach here is not only the model that's running on board, but the model we're running off board. And the nice thing about that off board model is it can be much slower, it can be much larger. And we actually use that to essentially distill that learning from the larger model onto the smaller model. And so this is really this amazing flywheel that produces better and better onboard models as we ship through OTA. Everything that we built so far has really been designed to scale, right? To have that notion of continuous improvement in everything that we're producing. And so I think you're starting to see that flywheel really kick into gear, right, with now this feature, and I think we have some really exciting things coming out this year. Where we hear from customers that they love the features, they just want to use them in more places. And I agree. I also want to use them in more places, and so a big focus for the team this year is really expanding our ODD to many more roads and really improving the availability of this amazing feature set.
And I'm gonna change lanes here, and this is. I initiated this lane change. This is a feature we'll be adding soon, which is automatic lane change. So I didn't have to do anything other than indicate to the car I wanted to change lanes. But these are the types of growth and features we'll be seeing over the course of the next year, which is really exciting. And the way those are developed from an end-to-end approach and in terms of making them very comfortable, very usable, is something that's built into the architecture.
And actually that lane change is one of the first features that really leverage this rich perception world model that we've been building. So when you indicate that lane change, we're actually checking all the vehicles to the left. We're understanding.
I'll go back over into the middle lane.
We're actually understanding the gaps and trying to fit in. We're also doing prediction, and a lot of this is like this AI-powered sort of intelligence. A lot of the way that these ADAS systems used to be built is, you would get your perception from a supplier. That would be a little ECU, typically packaged with a camera. You then may get certain functions, the separate ECUs like auto park and other things. So we really built the stack, internally from the ground up, and we own every piece of it, right? So the perception's developed in-house, the planning stack is developed in-house, and we really built it kind of with the eyes to much higher levels of autonomy. So the design of the stack actually doesn't look so different from stacks you may see in like L4 vehicles, which obviously have a much higher level of capability. But we really think that that type of forward-looking stack is really going to give you the scalability in the future to have much more capable systems.
And that's really also blurred the lines that used to exist between, let's say, like a level 2 architecture, a level 4 architecture, where not too long ago, just a few years ago, you would think of these as completely different architectures and topologies. As we see it today, the architecture that's in this vehicle in terms of compute, perception stack, the training infrastructure, is really the same architecture that we'll use to get to higher levels of autonomy. So going from hands-on, eyes-on to hands-off, eyes-off.
I think over time what's happened is that the computers have got so much more powerful, the sensors have got so much better that you're really starting to see a convergence of those approaches. And that's something we really leaned into. I think we're kind of industry leading on is really setting up the stack to support those much higher levels of autonomy.
James and I have been talking for a while about when can we start to show what we're working on. And of course, first we had to launch Gen 2 and get this in the market so that the architecture and platform was there. And as we're now going to start seeing this growing feature set, growing capability, we're excited to finally be able to start talking about the work that, we have hundreds of people within Rivian that have been focused on this for years. And it's going to be very nice to see the growth in our feature set, the growth in our capability, and really giving customers something that's highly differentiating.